What's up YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of The House Show. This is James Dow speaking here, and in today's episode, I'll be sharing with you what I have learned regarding this property cycle. We all know that trend has their own cycle, all the graphs, what does the graph mean, and same goes to property, they have a cycle. If you are keen to know what is actually a property cycle, do stay around for that. This property cycle is actually quite straightforward. Each cycle would last around 4 to 5 years, I guess, and then, let's see if these cycles actually make sense in the future or not lah. We will start off the cycle before COVID-19 happens. Before COVID-19, the entire property market, what is it actually like? I guess you know it very well, right? During that era, which is before COVID-19, the property market is actually under a downward cycle trend, meaning to say there are a lot of supplies, and then the newly launched property, let's say today it's being launched at 500,000, 20 months later the price actually reduced to 480. What is the reason behind? It's mainly due to oversupply, where there's no demand but the supply is still going on. During that era, what else is happening? Let's flashback a little bit. What is the bank interest rate during 2018-2019 compared to like right now? I have learned that the interest rate during that era is actually higher compared to the interest rate right now. Fast forward to the second stages of the property cycle, which is the rock bottom stages. During COVID-19, I believe a lot of property is out for sale, mainly due to the fact that tenants is moving out, people is losing their jobs, and then no more tourists. No tourists means your Airbnb unit can't survive. All sorts of reasons, and then causes the property market to be at the rock bottom. The number of the sellers in the market is actually more than the buyers. During that particular period, because of COVID-19, everyone in the market is very pessimistic, worried, and uncertain about the future, which in turn also causes the valuation for the properties to decrease as well. That is during the rock bottom stages, which is stage number 2. In 2020, as we can see, the developers, they no longer launch their properties because we are not sure what is happening in the future up until the appearance of vaccines, which is getting better like for now. Just to let you know, there is also a list of numbers of newly launched project launched in each particular year. You can just search it out. I think it's from NAPIC, if I remember correctly. You can track back during 2018. Maybe there is like 6 or 7 new launches, and then during the COVID-19, there is only like 3 to 4 launches, because developers, they are also afraid that once they have completed their buildings, and then no one is actually purchasing from them. To add on a little bit, during the rock bottom of the property cycle, the bank, they actually adjusted the interest rate in order to make it more attractive, in order to stimulate the entire economy, which is what happened last year, where the interest rate is being adjusted 3 times, if I remember correctly. It's been the lowest among the 10 years, right? We mentioned about the first and the second stages of the cycle, and like right now, at this very moment, I learned that we are actually in the recovery phases for now. During the recovery phases, the rentals increase, people are more optimistic to go into the market, and then the number of buyers actually gets more and more from time to time, starting now on. Due to the previous stage, the developers, they actually slower down their new launches, but the number of population, we will reach to a point whereby the demand of a property is much greater to the supply. In other words, means a shortage of supply. Like I mentioned just now, in order to supply a property, in order to complete the building, that takes around 3 to 4 years. 3 to 4 years ago, the developers, 10 projects, only 3 projects launched. 3 years later, they only supply 3 launches only for the future 4 years. I learned that what happened during these recovery phases would be the number of supply can't fit the number of demands, because the demand is way greater than the supply. that will also affect the prices of a property, whereby sold at a higher prices because everyone is snatching for one property. Since everyone is buying at above market value, because no supply so everyone wants to get it. So everyone is paying for a premium prices. For example, when people is looking at this 600,000 property, then maybe the sellers can sell it at 650, and there might be even some buyers move on to the fourth stages of a property, which is happening in the future, because the developers, they realize that, oh, the property is going on a upward trend. Everyone is buying properties. The number of buyers is greater than the sellers. So they jump into the market and they started to build more and more and more buildings. What happened next? As I mentioned just now, the new launches takes time to complete. So if during this particular time they launch, right, this particular development will only be completed 3 to 4 years later. If I remember correctly, the seniors told me that this peak cycle is during 2012, something somewhere there, where people is buying a lot of property, where people is very optimistic in getting their properties. This is also known as the boom phases for properties, and hence the number of new developments increases, because developers is their chance to make more money, right? To add on a little bit during the boom phases, so what we can foresee is that because the market is too hot, where the banks, they are worried that the market might crash in the future, in order to slow down this buying hype, then they will definitely increase the interest rate. What we are seeing right now, the interest rate has been adjusted after the reduction in 2020 or 2021, meaning to say the market is actually recovering for now. During the boom phases, the interest rate is definitely going to be higher compared to during the recovery or the rock bottom phases. The interest rate is part of the catalyst to the market. So when the interest rate is actually lower, it's cheaper for the buyers to get loans, vice versa. The 4 stages of a property cycle is on a recurring mode, where in the future the trends would be similar as well. That is what I learned from the seniors during the financial crisis, subprime crisis. The trend is always there. Like if we apply the trends during those days, which is the subprime crisis, we are actually in the recovery phases for now. I also learned that buying properties during the rock bottom phases or recovery phases would be the most profitable period, but you have to bear the while to dispose the property will definitely be during the boom phases where we can maximize our profit easily because the market is going very, very hot. I guess that's all from me today, and I hope you will learn something from my learnings as well. Once again, this is James Lau here. Thank you for staying till the very end. And if you think this video actually helps you, remember to give it a like, share it, and even subscribe to my channel. I'll see you again in the next one. See you there.